at ASoldiers. Once again, to help myself assimilate to a male audience, I have decided to physically look a little bit more like you, some more androgynous makeup. I got some very positive feedback on the first video that I did like this about YA recommendations for guys, because I feel like YA as a whole is marketed more towards a female audience. I did a whole video on how books are gender neutral, and that is that. However, I know that some books are more marketed towards a male audience and some books are more marketed towards a female audience, and YA as a whole is definitely marketed towards a female audience, with the vast amount of books having to do with a female protagonist, and a good portion of those books having a cover with like a girl with like a fancy dress on the front, or having the word love somewhere in the title that I know can somewhat deter male readers. Because of masculine and feminine and gender stereotype bullshit, there is nothing wrong with reading what you want to read. If you want to read cutesy romances and you're a guy or a girl, if you want to read high fantasy and you're a guy or a girl, if you don't feel like either one and you just like reading historical fiction, I will try and do a video for you too. So here we go. Here is round 2 of YA recommendations for guys. This first one is no surprise because I've recommended this for everybody that I can possibly think of, and that is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. We have a future technological dystopian world where no one can die. The whole planet is controlled by this benevolent computer. So we have a bit of a Big Brother situation going on. We have this really cool storyline with Scythes, who are people that are allowed to kill people and cull the population. Our two main characters are Scythe apprentices, and as we go into the politics of the Scythe world and death itself, we also get a computer technological plotline as well going on in the background that was so fascinating and just ramps up the tension in this book so well. Going along with the dystopian plotline, I have a slight contemporary-ish, and that is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. This is about a boy named Henry whose boyfriend commits suicide and his family is in a terrible place, and he sometimes also gets abducted by aliens, and these aliens tell him the day the Earth's going to end and he can either stop it or save them. Because he's in such a bad place, he automatically wants to just end everything and doesn't care about it. There's a lot of stuff about morality and family, and the characters in this are so vibrant. They're some of the best written characters I've ever read. But the fun part is that every couple chapters there's a small page-long scenario of how the world's gonna end. So we get the stereotypical zombie apocalypse and mass plagues, but we also get some real weird stuff like cockroaches take over the world, and there's a space-time continuum issue with time travel, and the world ends up going into like a black hole. It's super weird, it's super cool, and some amazing characters and portrayals of anything that goes on in a guy's mind. Now I know that all these movies like Mad Max and Fast and Furious are really aimed at a male audience, so I'm giving you one that is very similar to that, and that is Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. Like way in the future when we've destroyed the planet and it's all oil and glass and everything's run on machines and metal and oil, and there's like these weird biochemical creatures running around, and there's a big biomedical conspiracy going on with the main character. The main character is a cyborg who enters into a machine battle with her giant metal robot avatar, and it just goes all the way downhill from there when something bad happens at that arena. And it is so fast-paced, you cannot put this down. It's gritty and intense, and there were some amazing plot twists, especially the one at the end, so I'm definitely going to be picking up the sequel. So if you want a new trilogy to start, this is going to be it. Now let's go to a fantasy, because I feel like YA fantasy is very targeted towards a female audience, and some guys aren't sure how to break into a YA fantasy genre. So let me recommend the be-all end-all, the perfect one, the one that everyone loves, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. A Russian-inspired fantasy heist novel that involves a fantastic crew of both genders and all sexualities and much diversity amongst them. And the main character, one of the main characters, is always just a step ahead, and you never know what he's going to do, and I really loved the secrecy and layers that Leigh Bardugo wove into this novel. This is a very unique world that doesn't take a lot from other classic fantasy novels, so it very much is its own thing, with big themes on friendship and camaraderie and having to face your past. I loved this book. It has black pages. I don't know what else I need to tell you about it. Now, in case you're possibly buying this for the young man in your life, or you are one, or you want to become one, or you just know of one, and you're just intimidated by a lot of this other stuff. Maybe you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure. This book does wonders to introduce you to a world of YA, and it happens to be very close to home on my behalf as well, and that is Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. Honestly, anything by Scott Westerfeld. He just writes great stuff, and he has both female and male protagonists in all of his books, and they range from fantasy to dystopian to weird future stuff. As long as first loves, but also first betrayals in a dystopian society where surgery is very normal and being unique is looked down upon. And I think especially for a younger audience, this would be a really good book to start out with because it makes you think about that kind of thing as perhaps you're going into middle school or high school. It's easy to read, it was a fun ride. I think that the whole series by itself is really good and very thought-provoking. So if you need something to start you off with, this is a good one. Lastly, let's pull on one of the most popular pieces of pop culture, Game of Thrones. I love it, I'm sure you love it, even if you don't love it, you sure have heard of it, and there are a lot of very interesting scheming characters that, I mean, most of them happen to be female, but the majority of Martin's characters are all male. Well, I have a book that breaches that gap of like not having enough female characters while still feeling like Game of Thrones and having very high stakes and a lot of people getting killed. And that is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. We follow a privileged prince who has his own weird way of thinking about people, and then we have the princess from the alternate kingdom who also is in a bit of trouble and does not want to marry, and then a revolution leader whose role is just getting bigger and bigger in this story. There are super weird messed up themes about killing people and falling in love with the wrong people and being behind the revolution, and this was a great book. The world is very rich, very Game of Thrones-esque, very typical fantasy-esque, but the way that the characters interact, especially in a YA setting, like, they should not be so ruthless so young. That's what made it great. This would be a great book to read if you love Game of Thrones, but maybe don't want to subject yourself to the ridiculous thousands upon thousands of pages that is a Brandon Sanderson novel. And I can't really blame you, because every one of his books is like, ooh, girl, she thick. Basically, I'm boiling this down to you can read whatever the hell you want to read, but I know that some books are targeted towards different people. The male YA audience is a little smaller than the female YA audience, and I find that unfortunate because there are plenty of amazing books that aren't even these ones. These are just ones that I feel are more targeted towards a male audience or like a unisex audience. But you can read whatever the hell you want to read, and I hope that these may maybe inspire you to read a little bit more. As always, please leave down below your own recommendations. I would love to hear about them because I am constantly looking for stuff that is either new or different or for a different audience than I am used to, or even for my little cousin who's like 15 and reads a lot of the same stuff I do. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!